Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders, so let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the Jamodi Podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here.
Mike Neighbors had a really good point about his pet peeves, and I think every coach needs to know their pet peeves, and I think they have to be able to articulate those to their players. But then here's one way that players may be slightly different today is that they want to know why. When Coach Thomas told me anything back in the day, or Coach Bliss, I just said, yes, sir. I didn't ask why. And that was still that time. But because of the phones, because of parenting, they've been asking why forever. And so why would this be any different that I don't get to know why? So I do think whatever standards, whatever pet peeves, whatever white socks, because I do white or red socks below the calf. We don't do sleeves here. We don't do this. We call it the faith way. And it is nice, Coach, when you get to be at a place long enough to where you just kind of have that, not clout, but I get to talk about Carter Bross in 2013. He was hurt, one of our best players. He was hurt. He's standing next to me in warm-ups, and this team has headbands, sleeves, different colored shoes, all over the thing, and we're down here with our team shoes, white socks below the calf, looking like a unit. And he goes, Coach, I just love how we do things. I was like, what do you mean, Carter? And he said, I mean, they just don't look like a team. We look like a team. And I've used that story. I was like, if it's good enough for Carter Bross, then it's good for any of us here. And so there are those things, but we need to know our pet peeves, be able to explain the why. I also think we need to know theirs. Like, what things do we do that they don't like? And I think those are kind of fun conversations you can have with your players.
I think that's a great point. And I also think like you, I'm not like, if the trainer says you need to put on an arm sleeve, if you hurt your elbow, then put on the arm sleeve.
I need a doctor's note. I need a doctor's note.
We're not into, I'm not but that goes to like what we were just talking about. Like that goes to the culture, right? Like it's not about the show. Here's the deal about culture. It's got to be real. Like it has to be real. Kids smell a phony faster than anybody. And that hasn't changed. In my 32 years, that has not changed. Kids smell a phony before anybody. Parents, adults, certainly coaches, can be conned a little bit early by somebody, but not kids. And so whatever it is that your standards are, they got to be real and they got to be consistent, but they also got to know that you care about them, right? And so like you said, have some of those fun conversations. All you're really doing there is showing them, hey, I'm not just saying I care about you. I care about you. Like it's real. Like, yeah. Like, we spend more time with you than we spend with our own kids. I mean, and that's just a fact. In season, you just look at the numbers and the amount of time that you spend, it's more for somebody else's kids than theirs, than their own. And so I think as long as it's real, as long as, and we're not into fluff, I'm not, we don't sit around and crisscross applesauce and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. We don't do a bunch of that stuff. Don't get me wrong, but we love genuine enthusiasm. If somebody hits the floor for any reason and it's an effort play, everybody in the gym's going to be over there picking them up in a game. We're going to explode off of the bench and everybody's going to be excited about it. And we show those things on film. We brag on those things. It can't also just be about correcting and teaching. You have to have little celebrations in there too. You've got to reward kids. And then I do agree. It is important for them to know why. Like we pull them in all the time. We may have a classroom session. We'll tell them, hey, listen, this is why we're doing this. When I was your age, like you just said, there was no why. It was because I'm the coach. Shut up. Get over there and do it. We don't want to be that way. Like we want you to know why. We want you to be invested in this. Yeah. We want you to know so that when you talk to your friends and they play some other program somewhere, spring or summer program, if they're not telling you why, you should be able to ask why. And you can tell them why we do things, We want you to know. This is a partnership. I mean, this is not a 1950s era, hey, you're going to do it just because I said to do it. I'm not that smart.
And I think that ultimately makes us better teachers, because if we know that they will ask why, we better have the reason. And so I think it makes us better. And you mentioned something earlier too that I think is right on the money. Your standards have to work on and off the floor. Now, I've heard some coaches talk about they have their playing standards, they have their culture standards or program standards, and I get there's maybe it's possible to have different sets, but I think one thing we have to always be careful of is whatever words, whatever acronym, whatever way that we're showing up every day, they better be able to see a translation between real life and the court. Because if not, if it's just basketball, like for us, if shooting threes, if that was one of our standards, running and gunning was one of our standards. Okay, I get it. Like when we show up to a game, we're going to know who we are and what we're trying to accomplish. But what does that connect with in the classroom? What does that connect with on a Friday night when there's a choice that they have to make that's really hard between what's good for the team and what's not good for the team? So I agree with you. I think those standards, they work on and off the floor. And I know you probably feel the same way, Coach. That's the good stuff. Like that's when we get to really get into like why this is special. Not out of bounds plays and not every. It's when we get to talk about one day, fellas, when you're in an interview, one day when you're sitting across from your future wife and you're not looking her in the eye, she's going to think something's wrong with you. She's going to think you're shady. She's going to think you're holding something back. You better be able to sit across and look her in the eye. Like those conversations are the ones I think that they remember, and that's the good stuff.
I couldn't agree more. And to your point, like, okay, y'all are going to run and gun. You're going to shoot a lot of threes. How does that translate? Well, I can tell you how. I've never been to one of your practices. But you're not going to let a kid run and gun and shoot a lot of threes in a game, much less a whole team full of them, if they haven't really spent a lot of time practicing it. And so, how it relates to their classroom. It relates, hey, you got to go home and you got to study. You got to study. You have to prepare. It's called preparation. It's the same thing for a job. You get out of college and you want to go and my youngest son just graduated, and he's going into banking, and he's already learning a ton. He's working a lot, putting in a lot of long hours. Well, guess what? There's a lot of preparation that has to be done before the work can be done. Or the work can be shown. And so I do think it's all related, both on and off the court. And I couldn't agree more. It allows for us as high school coaches to have some impact on young people that I think coaches at higher levels of older kids, specifically collegiate and certainly professionally, really don't get to have those experiences very often. I don't think we get young men at such a crucial age.
Yeah.
Everybody used to talk about their middle school, but I think high school, especially for boys, because they mature a little bit later, generally speaking. They go through so much change from their freshman to their senior year, physically for sure, but mentally, emotionally, socially. They're going through so many things, and there's so many times that it is fulfilling when you get to have a conversation and think, okay, he's got a chance now. We helped kind of maybe, shift his focus a little bit and see things a little bit more clearly. And we did it because we're high school coaches and we're coaching basketball. But there's a plan to it. We're not just out here, faking it. It's got to be real.
If we're hoping that standards are set, if we're hoping that culture is caught, that's just a bad plan. And most likely, we don't want our players to base their game on hope. I don't want you to drive to the paint and launch off of 1 foot, not knowing exactly what you're going to do with it. Like, don't hope that something great's going to work out. Have a plan.
Yes.
And I think one thing you mentioned earlier too are those coaching paychecks is really what we're looking for, because all of us know for the most part that the paychecks that roll in from month to month may not validate the amount of time and effort we're putting in, but it's that email or that text, that visit years later where, and a lot of times, I don't know if you're the same way, but it's sometimes from those knuckleheads, the ones that you just felt like, man, that dude was with me for 4 years and I didn't change. I didn't do anything. I didn't help him at all. Like, that's the feeling. And then you get the text after a loss that you have with this team years later saying, hey, coach, stay with them, keep fighting. Like, or an email saying, hey, coach, I get it now. Like, I really, I thank you. Those are the ones that, like, we may be just planting seeds now, but one day we've got to hope that we see the fruits, or someone else sees the fruits of that labor.
I love that expression, coaching paychecks, because that's exactly what they are. There's nothing better than when former guys surprise you and come back up to the gym, or take time to write you a note, or now an email or a text or even a call. We just got Coach Anguiano and I just got a text message from one of our former players at our previous school over at Stevens High School just 2 nights ago, just checking in on us. Hadn't talked to him in quite a while. He was just checking in on us, seeing how we were doing. Those are, you're exactly right, because those are priceless, right? You can't there is no amount that you can put on that. And you hope that you have a positive enough influence, because you're not gonna bat 1,000, right? I mean, you can't impact every single kid the same way, because, like I said earlier, they all run their own race. They're all starting at a different starting line, and so you do the best you can. But I love that expression, the coaching paychecks. That's great. I'm going to steal that.
Borrowed it. But I think one thing that's helped me, and I'm not great at it yet. I know I'm better than I was, and I think that's where. I mean, that's what we're on this whole journey in life, right? Like, when perfection's never going to be possible here, but we're trying to be better than we were. And I used to take everything so personal. Every parent email, every player that decided not. See, I am at a private school and I don't recruit, and it's hard to get into faith. The standards are high, and it's expensive, and there's a Christian aspect that is lived out. And so, but kids can come here from anywhere. They don't have to live near us. So I get that part of the friction between the public schools, but we lose kids too. It's just as easy to lose them because they don't live here. They can go,
Right.
they go anywhere else. They go to the school where they live. Like, so, but I used to take it so personal when people would make those choices, or when they seem to be upset with the program or me, or the direction, or the culture. But I think maybe some advice, just I have to keep telling myself, is just to not take things so personal, and to understand that everybody is their perception is gonna be different. They don't see the why in everything. And there may be those parents that you just never really get, or players that you never get to connect with. But that's where go back to just do our very, very best and be faithful. But I don't know about you, Coach, not taking things personally has helped me quite a bit.
Yeah, and it's something that I think doesn't come naturally to any coach that I know, especially when you're younger, because you're like, by our nature, if you're serious about wanting to compete at a high level, and you hate to lose, what are you going to do? You're going to pour into your profession. In our profession, we're in the kid business, right? That's what we do. We're in the kid business. And so you're pouring into these kids, and sometimes you're not, especially when you're younger, you may not be doing it as well as you would like to do it, right? Or as well as you think maybe somebody else is doing it. And so when you get any sort of negative feedback, or maybe just a lack of positive feedback, man, it can really sting. It can really hurt. And so the old deal, well, I don't care what other people. I haven't met very many people like that in my entire life, that really, truly don't care what other. They may be able to brush it off a little easier. The longer you do this, the hide toughens up a little bit. The leather gets a little harder. But I don't know very many people that really pour into the kid business that doesn't sting. I mean, it stings. You wish it wouldn't, but I think we're all human too. I mean, everybody's. I don't know anybody that is not that way.
Completely agree with you, and I think doing this, you do have to be ready to have your heart broken like that. I think, like, because you said when you're going to be raw, transparent, you're going to empty yourself. into these guys or these girls, like there's going to be decisions that are made that they're going to break. It's going to break your heart. But I think that's where and what you can't do, not taking things personal to me doesn't mean that I am intentionally or that I don't care about others' feelings. Oh, yeah, you don't like what we're doing? Well, screw you. This is just
Yeah.
who we are. This is what we do. Well, no, I think level of care is high. And when the level of care is high, then man, you're going to have your heart broken and it's going to hurt a little bit. But like a player not wanting to play for you anymore, it may be because there's a better situation or they perceive it as a better situation. That's where I used to take it, I think, real personal. Like, what is wrong with me and what we're doing here that they don't want to stay? And so I don't know if other coaches out there have ever felt that way before when kids move, kids leave, kids stop playing your sport. But I don't know. I think the danger is, like you said, don't get so callous, don't get your hide so tough that you stop caring. Like and I think one thing you said early on was that players haven't changed, and I agree with a lot of you said. I think they want to they want to please. I think most players want to feel like their coach is pleased with them and what they're doing on the floor, and so don't hold back that praise. When we see it, and then hold their feet to the fire when we don't. But I want to always, I'm on that line. I want to have that balance of I'm going to give you everything and I'm going to care and I'm prepared for my heart to be broken. But I'm also going to not take it personal when choices are made and still be there to love you. Because I think when you take it personal, then you go, well, hey, you're done. I'm done with you. Shut the door. My phone's always open. Email, I'll always help if I can.
Well, you make great points. I also think there's probably a little bit of the competitor in us. Like if somebody leaves, like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? Our program's better than that program. If somebody leaves, like
Went there.
even if you don't like, even if that's not like your focus or at the
Yeah.
front of your, I think probably subconsciously there's a little competitiveness, that goes along with that also. But I do agree, and I think that it's well, like we tell our guys all the time, hey, you can't take coaching personally. I'm not coaching you
Yeah.
hard right now
Yeah.
because I don't like you. I'm coaching you hard right now because I love you, and I think you got a chance to be better. I think if you'll work hard and you'll make these adjustments and then really work at them, you can be better. But I can't take a charge for you. I can't block a shot or make a shot. I can't do any of those things anymore. All I can do is coach you, and I'm going to coach you as hard as I can. And I'm going to tell you I love you. But most of the time, I feel like sadly they hear when you're coaching hard and not necessarily as much when you're telling them how much you love them or how proud of you are of them. But it's still you're in the kid business, right? And so it's more of an art than it is a science.
And that's why I do think on the point of the criticisms or the constructive coaching to the praise, you're right on the money. They only hear or mainly hear the negative. And we've all been a part of those conversations where they're rattling off all that. But hey, you know what? You left out all the good stuff I told you, right? Like, or they don't tell the parents all the good stuff we tell them. But I do think that compliment sandwich is really important to communicating to players. Johnny, man, love how you're flying around the floor. I need you to block out better, but continue to keep pushing it like you are, like something positive, what they need to hear, what I need them to do, and then another thing positive. And I do think too, the Don Meyer quote, the more demanding that we can be without being demeaning is a great way to go about it too. But the sandwich is something that I've tried to always remember. Hard to do in the moment because you just want to throw the information that they need out. But how quick is it to make them feel great, teach them, keep them feeling great?
Great point. And I hadn't thought about that expression of the sandwich. I like that a lot. I always think of the quote, nobody ever remembers what you said after the word but. So, if you're going to give a compliment, then just let it end at the compliment. If you're going to correct them, just correct them. But I like that, with the sandwich analogy. But nobody ever remembers what you said after the word. They're only going to hear that last part.
I'm so glad you said that. Rod Olson's book, The Legacy Builder, Phil Beckner was the one that he gives that out to people and he recommended it. It's a short read. And one of the 5 coaches, or 5 people that this guy has to talk to throughout the book. One of the 5 is talking about communication that builds people up. And he talks about but. And he said, here's the one thing you have to do is because this guy was a business leader and he would be talking to people. It's like, you're doing this, but I need you to do this. He said, change that but to now. And this is a focus of mine this season is no more buts, but now. Guys, we're pushing it to the corner. Now, I need you to also rip and attack the middle. Like, that's way different than, guys, we're attacking the corners, but you got to remember to get to the middle.
Yeah.
Like, it makes
different.
the first action, like, that's not right. But a lot of times they're trying to do the things that we are asking them to do. Now it can be just a little bit harder. Now we can be even more dynamic. I like what you're doing right there. Now let's get even more let's get lower in our drop. Coach, I think that is a way, like, what are we trying to do every day? Like, move that needle just a little bit. Get them a little bit farther along, believing in themselves more, shooting and playing with more courage. But to now, game changer in my opinion.
Love that. I love that. I love that.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.